Postma. Diederik, if you can join us here on the screen, that would be fantastic.
I'm on my way.
Thank you very much. Well, as Diederik is joining us. So to give Diederik an introduction, Diederik is an experienced solution consultant leader. What does that mean? It means he knows how to go into businesses and figure out how to make things work better. He's got more than 15 years of experience across multiple industries, including banking, government, telecommunications companies. At Value Bank, Diederik helps Blue Dolphin customers with their digital transformation journeys by translating their strategic goals into enterprise architecture, which is exactly what we're talking about. How do you take the business's big goals and translate them into architecture? And by doing so, he helps them gain a clear view of where the organizations stand with transformation projects and how these projects contribute to their business goals. And more importantly, what Diederik is going to take us through right now is an understanding of what does it mean, given your current situation, how do you transfer into a situation that allows you, it's almost like how do you replant the field, how do you transfer to a situation where you can grow and be nimble with the business. So Diederik, with no further ado, thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to turn off my camera and turn it over to you.
All right, thanks for the introduction, Chris. So, welcome everybody. I'm kicking this 3 days off, so very excited. So today I'll be talking about rethinking your architecture ecosystem to accelerate your business transformation. And who am I? Well, Chris obviously already mentioned it. My name is Diederik. I'm a director of solution consulting at Value. And what you can expect in this session is, well, obviously I will do a short introduction on Value. Blue Dolphin, our enterprise architecture platform, and how that all relates to business transformation in general. And then I will end with a use case demo that surely and clearly will show you what Blue Dolphin can do for you. And at the end of the session, I think there will be plenty of time for Q&As. But let's first start with a short introduction on Value. For those who don't know Value, we first saw the light at 2011 when our founder Wilco set up Value. Funny enough, not as a software firm, but as a consultancy firm. And it was in these first years that we kind of supported our customers in their transformational journeys when it came to enterprise architecture. And we came across a lot of challenges by then in those days. For example, in order to get like the full picture on an organization, it took us quite some time to create that single pane of glass kind of. And that had to do with the fact that a lot of organizations were, but still are, quite siloed. So the information was like kind of scattered. So in order to get that single pane of glass and to get that view on the organizational landscape, we had to look in a lot of sources, not only systems, point solutions, but there was also the human side of things. There was also a lot of information in people's heads. That was basically the main reason that in 2014 we launched our architecture platform Blue Dolphin, and a full-blown enterprise architecture management platform with the unique capabilities of collaborating with all the different stakeholders within an organization. Because obviously, whenever you're in a transformational journey, it touches all the corners of the organization, right? It's not just management, it's all layers that are being touched in transformational journeys. So within Blue Dolphin, we enable our customers to kind of collaborate. By now we have offices in Utrecht, that's our main head office, but also in Hong Kong and New York. And we were really proud to enter the Gartner Magic Quadrant in 2019. And we've been there for the last 3 years. So we're steadily moving up towards the leaders quadrant. And we now serve over 200 customers worldwide. If you look at the biggest driver for organizations to change, what are the biggest transformational drivers? Those can be divided basically in external drivers and internal drivers. But let's first look at the external drivers. There's globalization, there's new market entrants, but there's also the ever-changing customer expectations, right? Because if you look at, like, for example, 10 years ago, it might seem a long time, but in IT, 10 years is nothing. 10 years ago, whenever you needed something financially from your bank, you would walk into a branch and you would, like, whatever financial business you have, you would like solve it at the bank's branch. Nowadays, we kind of expect that same service, but all online. So that's a big driver for organizations to change. And then, of course, there's internal drivers. And internal drive could be, for example, innovation in order to create new products and services, simply to stay ahead of competition, for example. But no matter what the drivers are, basically, the whole transformational journey is generally done in the same way all over the world, because obviously it all starts with planning. So you set your corporate objectives, so you work top down, you collect your project proposals, and based on that, you do an assessment and you create solution blueprints. But you also determine values, costs, risks, and then you start prioritizing your projects based on, for example, your corporate objectives. And then in the last phase, obviously, you start executing, so you start building. So you describe your current situation, you define your future, so where you want to be in, say, 1, 3, 5, 7 years. And then finally, obviously, you start executing on your change projects. But what we found mainly in the first years of our existence is that there's a lot of challenges. And those challenges has to do with the fact that there's a lack of accurate insight. So there's no insight if budget is spent in the best possible way and how it all contributes towards, for example, your business objectives. To assess and monitor the progress of change. So the moment you start assessing and you create your blueprints, there's hardly any insight in how to give guidance to, for example, agile project teams without slowing them down. So again, there's a lot of challenges currently, as still today, a lot of challenges that we face in changes. So if you look at agile business transformation or business transformation, our view is that it all starts with your business goals, right? So that should be, or in most of the cases, that's a big driver for change. So you define your business goals and your strategy, and then you look at the current capabilities. So the things you currently do in order to serve your customers or sell your products, and whether the current capabilities are supporting the business goals for now and in the future. So you need to map out your capabilities and how they link to your business goals. But obviously, capabilities are kind of empty vessels, right? Because capabilities by themselves are supported by processes, applications, and data. So in order to get like a full insight on the current state, you need to describe your processes and your applications and data as well, and map them towards capabilities and how well they are supporting your current capabilities. So once your current state is completely inside, you can think of your transformational roadmap. Again, where you want to be as an organization. And for example, what I mentioned, like a bank branch, kind of whenever you need something financial, you don't go to the bank branch, you kind of expect it to be all present online. So you look at the current capabilities and how well they are supporting those goals of moving towards online. So you define your future capabilities. And then again, of course, those future capabilities need process, applications, and data. So you create your blueprints and baselines, and based on that, you start identifying and prioritize projects based on business impact or based on how well they support the business goals. And then finally, you start executing and you start updating your processes, applications, and data. And then basically, your future state becomes current state, and the whole process starts all over again, and you keep monitoring the whole transformation progress. So that's basically it. And how Blue Dolphin supports this is with a central repository. And within this central repository, you can store your business goals, your projects, your processes, data, and applications. And in order to make life easy, because 9 out of 10 times there's already like a lot of information available within organizations regarding, for example, your application landscape, etc. It might be clustered or it might be scattered across the organization, but it's there. So we have a lot of out-of-the-box integrations with, for example, a ServiceNow, the CMDB of ServiceNow, or with the Top Desk or Flexera, to get all the information that's available in. All is not the right word, because we do it based on just enough architecture, because it's not a goal by itself to get like loads of data in. We just pick out that data that we later on will need. So we kind of recycle available information. That's one thing. And as I mentioned in the beginning, there's also a lot of information outside of systems, because it might be in people's heads, it might be in Excel sheets, it might be in PowerPoints or VCOs. So in order to get that information in as well, again, the main goal here is to create that single pane of glass, that single source of truth. We need that information as well, and that's a collaboration part of Blue Dolphin. Once the central repository is filled, so the current state is in, so your projects, processes, data, applications, it's all there, your business goals. We got 3 visualization models. Basically, it's 4, but 3 mains. It's the architecture models, and those are fully based on Archimate. There's your process models. Those are based on BPMN. And your data models, and data models are based on ERD. The last visual layer is called free shapes, because if you think of the 3 visualizations, those are perfectly readable. If you think of an ivory tower principle, if you're an enterprise architect, you're more than familiar with architecture models. If you're more looking from a process model, BPMN is perfectly readable for a process manager. But you want to connect the rest of the organization in your transformational journey as well, because I mentioned a transformation, a journey touches all departments of an organization. So free shapes allow you to translate all the objects within the central repository in a kind of PowerPoint way, so you can present it in a nice and readable way to the less technical, savvy people. You can connect, for example, your board, you can connect management, etc. And lastly, of course, within the Blue Dolphin solution, there's monitoring via reporting and dashboarding, and we got connectors with Tableau, Qlik, and Power BI. And imagine what it can do for example, a business analyst to get an organizational overview, an organizational landscape overview top-down, or, for example, create reports for C-level management, where you can show them how well projects are contributing towards the set business goals, for example. The whole Blue Dolphin suite consists of several business solutions. So there's business process management, there's application portfolio management, data management, and project and portfolio architecture. And the main goal is, again, to connect like all the parts of the organization that are needed within a transformational journey, to make your processes lean and efficient, to not only manage your application landscape, but to keep it up to date as well, and do impact analysis from infra up to processes. Again, with an end goal to make everything lean and efficient. So if you look at all of this, maybe it's a good thing to show you something like more hands-on. So what I'll show you is a use case based on architecture ecosystem that accelerate your business transformation. And to give a little bit of context, we will be looking at this fictitious retail company that's called Liberty Retail. And Liberty Retail's management has set themselves 5 main business goals. And one of the main business goals is that they want to move from physical stores to online presence. So currently they don't have any online presence. So let's take a look on how this organization, Liberty Retail, is using Blue Dolphin to transform the business and to connect all the parts of the organization while doing so. So here we are in Blue Dolphin. And Blue Dolphin is a full SaaS platform which runs in every major browser. And as I mentioned in my introduction, whenever you go into a transformational journey or in a transformation, it all starts with strategy, right? So let's first look at strategy. And for this case, Liberty Retail has defined everything that kind of defines them as a business in this strategy tab, where you can see, for example, business goals. Well, I already mentioned there are 5, right? So this is typically something that comes from management. And then from an enterprise architect, you will translate it in like kind of visuals like this in order to set the landscape. But there's also your mission and vision and values, your value proposition, customer journeys, the organization itself and how it's organized, your goals, policies, principles, products and services, and the business model canvas. And that's something I want to zoom in next. And a business model canvas like this, and just to give you some side information, graphics like this is done in 3 shapes. I mentioned like we support 3 shapes in which you can build in a kind of PowerPoint kind of way, build visuals like this in order to get it across the entire organization. These are templates that can be used, but you can also build your own templates really easily. And what you see here, a business model canvas, it consists of a kind of an operating model, kind of your ecosystem. So all the things that need to be in place in order to deliver your services or your products to customers. So you got your suppliers, you got the locations you own and from which you, for example, sell your products. There's the organization itself, and there's the information layer. And then there's your value proposition. So your main goal as a business towards your customers. So what you want to accomplish and how you do it, for example. And this is more your business model and your value chain. I will touch on that later, but this is more the front end. So the channels you use, the customer segments you try to service. And this has all been backed up by a cost structure, a financial model with revenue streams and costs. And then in the middle, you got your value chain. And the value chain basically is a combination of capabilities that needs to be in place in order to sell products and services. So let's zoom in on the value chain and look at the current state capability model, because I mentioned in the beginning, it all starts with your business goals, then you translate it into capabilities. And then once you got your capabilities mapped out, like, for example, this, you can start plotting them on, for example, your applications or your processes. So let's look at processes first. So with these kind of color views, and we call them conditional layouts, it's really easy to map your current processes on your capabilities. So which processes are currently supporting the capabilities. So already you got a lot of information available with these kind of visuals. You can also say like, okay, I want to know how my capabilities are currently supported by applications. So here you got your applications and it's mapped over your capability landscape. And you can already see that, for example, in the top left corner on strategy management, for example, for the capability innovations, there's 8 applications needed in order to make this capability happen. Where, for example, other capabilities only need 1 application or maybe 2. So this already gives some insight on, okay, I see these capabilities and I see I need a lot of applications in order to make a capability happen. So maybe later on, that's something you can define as a change project, because you might want to see like, is there overlap in applications? Do I really need 8 applications for a innovation capability, or can I consolidate? Well, that's for later on. The thing you need to know is that whenever you map your capabilities, a capability can consist of a lot of other objects in the repository, because this allows me, the moment I connect, for example, the projects that this capability is involved with, or what business processes this capability is being supported by, I can then later on create the views I just show you that you can lay over your capability model. So with this information, there's a lot of analysis possible in later phases. On the other hand, there's also behind a capability, there's diagrams. Because, for example, as a application owner, I'm not necessarily interested in capabilities, or I'm not sure what I'm looking at when we're talking about capabilities, but the diagram shows me a lot of information immediately. So I can see the capability sales, for example, and how this capability sales is being supported by applications. So I can see there's 4 applications supporting this capability, but there's also a process. There's business goals, move towards online shopping, and I can see there's relationships with other capabilities as well. And a nice thing, the moment I think like as an owner of this visual, where I can see all relationships towards this capability, whenever I think as a owner of this visualization, I need to change things around, or I want, for example, I got the application layer, but maybe I also want an infra layer. I can invite people from IT to work with me on this visual. I can copy the view, I can invite the people, and real time, simultaneously, we can work on the graphics that then automatically will be updated and stored in the central repository. So whenever I pull up this diagram, the changes made in this diagram are automatically available. So for the collaboration part, this is really powerful because you can immediately go to either BPMN processes, because it's all integrated with your Archimate, and you can collaborate on creating these pictures. But as I mentioned earlier, and that's the interesting part, because yeah, okay, we mapped out our capability model, and we can do some cool stuff with conditional layouts, with color views. But if I really want to go into defining my projects, and in this case for Liberty Retail, they want to move online, right? So the things I need to know is, okay, in how far the current capabilities, how well are they supporting the business goals, and which capabilities are impacted? Because then once you know which capabilities are impacted based on the business goals, and again, here are the business goals set, the ones I started out with, I can see they are mapped out throughout my capabilities. I already know per capability what applications are supporting, etc., etc. So based on that information, I can already do a lot of stuff. Move towards online shopping was the biggest goal for Liberty Retail. So I can see that it touches on these capabilities. So the moment I want to define my projects and I want to set them away in time, this is quite handy information. So once you define your projects, and again, it's online web shop is the main one, so it's set in time, first one. This is a great overview you can work from as an enterprise architect, but also inform management with visuals like this. And again, this is a template as well, so you can easily drag and drop all your objects from the central repository into this this template. So it's a really nice way to see, like, okay, on what plateaus does do the different projects run. But there's also, for example, the innovation radar that kind of zooms out towards all the projects you might have within your organization. Again, to keep management informed, but also to do like your project meetings to see where we are, etc., etc. So a great way to present not only management with the information they might need, and for example, how well projects are contributing towards the business goals, but also to have your project management meetings. Behind a project, obviously, there are work packages. And again, we're still talking about the online web shop. So we're looking at the application design for online web shop, because we know from the current state what applications are currently in place, and based on the future state, what possible applications we might need in order to make the online web shop possible. So the current state and the project end state, so the future state, you can already see there's 3 applications added. So there's optimal route added, and that's planning and routing for packages for door-to-door delivery. There's Shopify, that is the whole functionality of online shopping. And in this case, Intercom will be added in order to do the chat messages. And again, these visuals all available in templates. And again, on these kind of visuals, I can collaborate with all the different stakeholders from IT, from application management, in order to create this kind of visuals. And of course, you can do it layered if needed. So you can define everything that's behind it as well. So your infra layers, basically everything. So you can visualize it in a layered way. Well, again, if you look at the projects, even here, I mentioned like the color views, so you can kind of filter out information. Those are available throughout the whole Blue Dolphin suite. So it doesn't matter if you're in application portfolio management or process management, or in this case in project portfolio architecture. The conditional layouts are available here as well. So if I want to know, based on the projects that are defined, how well do they contribute towards the business goals, there's the layers available as well. So again, really easy way to show, for example, management what we're doing and how well the different projects are contributing. Lastly, of course, there's reports. And in this case, I've used a Power BI via our OData feed, where I can create reports like this, where I can see the projects and where they run in time, but also my estimated budget versus realized budget, how the project portfolio is built. So is it more on the growth side of things, or is it on the transformational side of the organization and the set goals? And what are the deliverables per project, project management, etc., etc. So a nice overview, for example, again, for either project boards or management boards. But there's also, and this is a real nice overview as well, the strategic importance. And immediately you can see that move towards online kind of covers all the set business goals, where, for example, the online revenue only touches on a couple. So again, a really great way of showing information and to get insights on where you are regarding your projects. This way, as I said, via the OData feed, allows organizations to create reports like this, and you can do it as you please. So it's a limited time, right? I can talk for hours, but for now, for this use case where we started off with kind of the business goals, so the collaboration part of it all. So as management, you set your goals, and as an architect, you translate it into projects and translate it to the business, basically, via seamless integration, your architecture models, processes, and data, but also the free shapes for storytelling throughout the organization. And all done via the out-of-the-box value-driven use cases, for example, application portfolio management and your business process management and project portfolio architecture. So I hope that I've shown a journey which is possible, a transformational journey from your goals to the final execution. And well, that leads me to kind of questions. So I think we should open up for questions now. I think you're on mute, Chris. Yeah, I can't hear you.
Improve?
Yeah. Now you're back. You're back. Welcome.
Okay. I've got to talk to Yeti about my microphone. So Diederik, you delivered as promised. I don't I can't speak for all of the people who are attending now and who are going to be attending, but to me, I watched that and I said, wow, compare this to what I know happens without this kind of clarity, without this kind of prioritization. And that's actually the first question I want to ask you. There are a couple others I want to go through, but the first one I want to ask you is, if you I'm the CEO of the company you're going to go talk to, right? Or I'm the boss of someone on this call or someone watching this, and you say to that CEO, this is why this is important, and this is what how it's going to change your world. So how arm the people on this call, if they're not the CEO themselves or the CIO themselves, arm them to go in that elevator, the classic elevator thing. Why is this important and what's it going to do for you?
So why is it important? It all starts, again, you as a company, you've set your business goals. But a transformational journey is not only management having their business goals, or in the end, the organization, the operation that is executing on it. It's a lot of different stakeholders that you need to involve in order to be successful in the transformational projects you turn up with, right? So my main thing would be like collaboration throughout the entire organization within a platform that allows you to collaborate and to give that like single pane of glass on where you are and where you want to be as an organization.
Okay, so let me take that further. What are the kind of leaders who get this most quickly versus the kind who don't?
So I would say like leaders that are like, especially the ones that are not lagging behind, that are like looking ahead, like what's out there,
right?
And really want to change, right? And think like, okay, no matter what your driver is, we need to change, either because our customers expect us to change, because we need to deliver new services, etc., etc. But organizations that look ahead in time, I think this is a solution that really helps organizations to change, not only as an organization, but also to change the organization and the way they service customers.
I was wondering, Diederik, when you showed the business model canvas, Alex Osterwalder, who was the person who created the business model canvas, is probably quivering in happiness to see that you're using it in the way that you are. That seems like it would really resonate well with business leaders, because you're putting the whole business on the page and you're showing them, and someone's asked, are you going to make the slides available? I think you're going to make the slides available. These presentations are going to be available. So it's anybody who wants them. You don't have to worry about copy paste. You can get them. But that business model canvas, I thought, really, to me, if I were your CEO, or I were the CEO or you were selling to, and you could walk me through how that comes together in the business model canvas, I would be very excited. Next question I have for you is, and this comes up in any kind of tool or technique, and I'll use business model canvas words and startup words. What length of time would you say is required to get the minimum viable implementation of Blue Dolphin up? Notice I said minimum viable, not every feature, not every port, to the point that people are going, we're moving, the wheels are turning. What would you say that, and I know there are a lot of variables, but how would you deal with that?
That's a really interesting question, because I think that's one of the great benefits of using Blue Dolphin. The initial setup, and yeah, you're right, Chris, that there's a lot of variables, but the minimal setup, taking in account the business goals, where you want to move towards an organization, to set up like the basic schemes and templates, train the people that are going to be the main contributors in the system, takes about 7 days.
That's not what I was expecting you to say.
No.
I expected the number 7, but days was not what I was coming after this.
7 months probably, right?
Well, that's sort of what I was expecting. As a matter of fact, there's another question. Kamran has asked a question. He said, do you have to know Power BI or other data visualization applications in order to create the reports? It's very specific, but it's about your training.
Yeah, and it's a good question. For example, Power BI, in order to create reports in Power BI, of course, you need to have the basics on Power BI. getting the data in, that's like really easy. Using the OData feed of ValueBlue, it's really easy to configure it in Power BI. But you before you start working on templates or reports, first you need to know the goal. So why are you creating this report? With what intent, and what's the audience? Once that's set, you got your data feed, then it's rather easy. But basic knowledge of Power BI is definitely needed. But that goes for every analytics tool, I would say.
Well, that's fair. So Diederik, I have a sort of a general question. Let's say, and of course it's impossible for anyone asking you a question not to refer back to their own business experience. So I'm in any of the big businesses I've worked with, either as clients or I worked in GE for years. So I'm trying to put myself in that role. And there's all these meetings and all this distraction and these priorities going all over the place, and planning sessions and strategy, et cetera. And you're just asking me to learn another tool. I'm wondering, do you recommend that you kind of build a core, I don't want to call it a center of excellence because that's overused, but do you recommend building a couple of really good, totally aware people on the tool so that they can be the touch point for people to come talk to?
Well, I would say like the big pro of Blue Dolphin is it's a real collaboration platform. So of course you got your power users, but there's also contributors. Well, that's a really hard word for a non-English person. But there's also a lot of contributors, right? So yeah, there's a couple of power users, I would say, like the enterprise architects, the business process managers, etc., etc. They can set up their visuals, but people can contribute towards those visuals. Again, the main goal is that you create that single pane of glass, right? So you need contribution of all angles of the organization.
So do you find when you talk about sort of levels of training, there's that power user in the center, right? The beautiful part is that person is probably really into this. They really get it. It's in their blood. It's how they think. And so then you can kind of tier out the level of training to the individual contributors, right? Yeah. Exactly. And then I assume you got to do some training on, sorry, you were going to answer that question?
No, I was just saying, because you're touching exactly on the point where I mentioned, like, we don't want to create that ivory tower principle where you can only contribute whenever you got the technical knowledge on, for example, Archimate or BPMN. So we made sure that there's no ivory tower.
I didn't want to use that expression because I know what you mean by that, and I have been involved in that. And then you get the savant in the corner who gets a bad personality and is the only person who understands the new tool, and the rest of the business says, well, we can't work with this person and we don't like the new tool. So that's your approach, is to not build the ivory tower and to more what's the word, not socialize, but to well, you say like the citizen developer. In robotic process automation, they call it the citizen developer, where you're just the standards are maintained by the center, but the citizen developer can bring things to the table. That's super. Okay, well, look, that was fantastic. I am not an enterprise architect, and if you can explain to me, and then make me be all excited about why this is a key tool, then I would say you probably got the people who are on the phone and watching this who know it in detail. Pretty excited about it. So with all conferences, and this is no different, you bring very smart people together, right? But whether they're thought leaders of a particular high-level concept, abstraction, a particular tools or company, and certainly that's what you brought. And I realize we put you in a 30-minute box. You cannot explain something in 30 minutes. You're making the slides, of course, available to everyone, which is fantastic. So I think the next question I would say to people is when they're and it's always this, how deep can they go? Obviously, you must have some great information they can find on your website, and some videos or documents that explain the information. Being in the magic quadrant, that's pretty great. So you get a neutral write-up of what's going on. And I think that would be very helpful. Okay, let me ask another question. So you're talking to your team, and they say they've seen this presentation with all these images all over the place. And then you try to say to them, we're going to spend a little bit of money to make this happen. I don't know what a little bit is, but we're going to spend a little bit of money to make this happen. And this is how it's going to compare in your daily life. When it's done and running and up and running, this is how it's going to be. You know, this is the pain pleasure principle, right? So talk to me about the pain that goes away and the pleasure that they get from implementing that. I think that's the way it's sort of phrased.
That's a good question. Thanks. No, so that's basically the thing I started off with. Like that there's all over the world, there's still a lot of pain when it comes to enterprise architecture, and that has to do with the fact that still a lot of information is scattered throughout organizations, and we still have like kind of these silos.
Right.
So the pain that Blue Dolphin takes away is we allow you to create that single pane of glass. So create that current state and keep it up to date, because that's a challenge by itself, via connectors with other applications, et cetera, based on just enough architecture, because we don't have the goal to like copy and dump all data. No, we do it based on just enough architecture. And once that current state is in, we make life easy by creating those visuals, creating your transformational projects based on that current state. So you can easily define and collaborate with other people how the future state would look like, from management up till like process managers, etc. So it's connecting the whole organization towards your transformation, because in the end, projects are 9 out of 10 times projects are successful if you've got like the carrier, right?
So Diederik, we're on the 9th floor of a 10th floor building. We're on the elevator. I'm stepping off to go get my coffee and see the city. And I say to you, so what are you telling me that I'm going to waste a lot less time trying to figure out what the heck's going on in my organization before I can move forward? Is that one of the big points you just said?
Yeah, correct.
And are you also telling me, as I step through the threshold of the elevator, are you also telling me that I'm going to be able to accelerate my projects faster once this is up and running?
That's exactly what I told you.
Thank you very much. Would you like sugar in your coffee or not? I don't know how many conversations I've had that get compressed to that little amount of time. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That can be what happens. Okay, well, fantastic. Diederik, thank you very much. Let me check if I have anything else that I didn't. Most of the points that I'm seeing are around what we've already discussed. So the best way to reach out to you, anyone who's attending or listening to this after the fact, you can certainly reach out to Diederik directly through the company itself, of course, and you can go through Value Blue. And I just want to thank you, because now we've got, what happens in the beginning of the sessions is a lot of people kind of come on at a trickle time. I just want to thank you guys for sponsoring this event. The only way we can make these events happen is two things. People who have good ideas show up and willing to talk about them, and we have people who are willing to sponsor it, so the people who can attend can attend. And so I want to go through quickly a list on that. Just Value Blue, obviously, is a sponsor for the event. Software AG is also a sponsor for the event. RDoc, Lean IX, and Mega International are all sponsors of the event, which is fantastic to have that kind of knowledge base here. And we're going to cover some more points on that. So Diederik, we're going to drop off in about 3 minutes. And what I would encourage you, actually, if you could, I don't know if you're going to be available, but the next topic this morning, for anybody who's on listening live for this morning, we're going to change out on the topics. And because I saw Diederik's, I got to go right after you on this one. I'm going to give a talk on what I call noble automation. And what noble automation is, it's actually not in the agenda. So what noble automation is the implementation of intelligent automation, which absolutely depends on the enterprise architecture of the organization, which is why I think they couldn't have set this up better for us. The term noble means to serve the maximum number of stakeholders in the implementation. And Diederik, if you're still watching the presentation, you and I are going to talk later about what points I can make that can reinforce this enterprise architecture area more. That's fantastic.
Will do. Thanks.
And by the way, the fact that you can speak English as well as you do, being Dutch, I'm laughing that you're saying one little word is hard to say. My wife is Japanese. Any word with an R, she says, could you guys come up with an easier word for that, please?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, sometimes you just stumble over certain words that are like really difficult to pronounce for my nature.
To many people, they would bow in deference to your bilinguality. I don't think that's a word, but bilingual nature. Okay,
Well,
so we're going to log off for this event. We're going to pick back up at the top of the hour for the next event, the next speaker, who happens to be Christopher Hodges, who's going to talk about Noble Automation Now. And I happen to be Christopher Hodges. So I will see you at the top of the hour for our next topic as we continue our journey on Enterprise Architecture Live with Proqis. Thank you very much.